Welcome to you all, the Unit 11 of International Marketing Mix Strategy, which is International Distribution Channel. So, when you talk about international distribution strategy, before that, already we have come across with the product and brand related issues as far as international business is concerned, where you to have standardization approach, you have adaptability approach. When you talk about pricing approach, also we have price penetration and price scheming. Also, we talk about the integrated marketing communication approach, where we talk about that is the companies can adopt standardized approach and adaptability approach. So once we complete all the details, we can get to know what are the necessary steps as far as marketing mix is concerned. When you talk about the international distribution strategy, that is exactly before that I will talk about one thing. Even if the product is good one, or the pricing is the right price, promotion is the effective promotion, but if the product does not reach in the right place and the right time, then the marketing fails there. So just imagine from that point of view how distribution is has paramount importance. That is because the product has to reach and at the right time and the right place. So then exactly your marketing is successful. So that is why we are talking about the international distribution strategy. When you talk about the international distribution strategy, before that I will talk about basically distribution channel is meant to reach the ultimate customers, where we have come across with different kinds of distribution. The company has used zero level of distributions, one level of distribution, two level of distribution, and multi level of distribution partners. So where there is a lot of intermediaries are there. If you wanted to increase the number of intermediaries, then exactly your cost of the price will increases, which ultimately reduces your volume of sales. So that is why when you are designing the distribution channel, you have to see whether you will be limiting your distribution points or you will be expanding the distribution points, or exactly whether you wanted to have a long-term role, long-term, you wanted to have a long-term business in the other countries. If you wanted to have a long-term interest in the other countries, then exactly you have to have your presence there. You can have your own distribution there, and exactly you have to enter there. Most of the international companies, they take the route of franchising, or they take the route of joint ventures to enter into the foreign countries. Already we have discussed about that, which means they do not want to take risks as far as distribution is concerned, because there are two types of risks involved when you are going for the international markets. The first one is your country risk, second one is the currency risk. Currency risk can be minimized, you cannot have control over the currency risk, but as far as country risk is concerned, if you are taking the help of one local partner, local company who will be collaborating or will have a joint venture with your company, then exactly what happens, your risk has been, risk can be minimized. So that is why on the side, let me cite you an example. We talk about when Procter and Gamble, they wanted to enter to the Indian market. They have signed a MOU with Godrej, and they try to enter because being an international company, you have capital, you are capital rich, and as far as the local companies, they do have a network. So to access the network, the local company, international companies always take the help of local companies to get and to minimize them, the risks of country risks. So that is why we will be talking about what is the ways, how can you, have a control over the distribution channel, how will be getting a lot of benefits as far as distribution channel is concerned. So all the points we will be talking about. Before that also I will just add, distribution can be extensive, that is can be exclusive distributions, can be selective distribution, can be intensive distribution. What is exactly you want, whether you wanted a exclusive, if you want exclusive distributions, then exactly what happens, your investment on your distribution pattern will be more. If you wanted to have a selective distribution, the difference will be there. If you are wanted to have a penetrate, you have to go for the intensive distribution. So that varies on the basis of the also basis of your pattern of distribution you wanted. Besides that, the kind of product you are dealing with, if you are dealing with FMCG product, suppose case of Hindustan Unilever Limited or Pepsi or Coke, they are dealing with the product which is a FMCG product, which means they definitely have to go by the intensive distribution channels. So that is why all the points will be the discussion of the today. That is exactly how the companies wanted to reach maximum or ultimate customers, and second point is exactly how can you have better coverage as far as distribution is concerned, and how can you have control and which kind of distribution you will be going for. These are the points which we'll be discussing during the course of the class. So when you talk about the distribution as far as international marketing is concerned, distribution is one of the important area, because exactly I have talked about that. That is, even if you have a right, product, right price or right promotions, but what matters is the distributions. Distribution exactly why matters now, because distribution usually makes your work more easier, or implementation becomes easier if you have the right distribution part. So that is why distribution is meant to implement your international marketing programs. That is why now it has to enable you the product or services to reach the ultimate customers. Due to the distance between the different countries, variation in culture, variation in market characteristics, so middleman is quite required. You have to have intermediaries. If you are going for intermediaries, that already we have talked about, that if you are going for the intermediaries, that will reduce your risks. That will reduce your country risks. That is why most of the international companies, they prefer to have a local partner when they wanted to enter in the knowledge, because uh, they don't have country knowledge, they don't have product knowledge. That is why they wanted to take the help of middlemen or intermediaries. That is why you talk about, when you talk about the intermediaries, but intermediaries also add your cost, because the percentage of your percentage of your profit will go to the distributor. The more the distributor length will be, the more you will be spending on them. So the cost of the production will be higher, the product cost will be product cost will be higher, and what will happen? That is exactly you will be getting less sales as far as volume is concerned. That is why we talk about distribution is one of the primary function of market, which makes use of services of external independent agencies that bind the farms in the long-term relations. That is we talk about. If you wanted to have a long-term relationship, you have to have a win-win situations. That is where both the parties, the party who are involved in distribution and the company, both has to get profit. Once both are getting profit, then basically the relations will become long-term relationship, and it will give benefit or dividend to both the parties, as well as the company involved, as well as the distribution involved. When you talk about the distribution partners or distribution channels, as far as international marketing is concerned, we have two kinds of distributions. We talk about institutional distribution and physical distribution. In case of physical distribution, which is requires your warehousing and logistics. So that is why you cannot have your own logistics, you cannot have your own warehouse. So that is why you have to take the help of some local players to have their warehouse, have their logistics, to have a better, that is the distribution channels. So that is why when you talk about the, you're talking about the distribution, international distribution, example of international distribution channels, talking about the production location in country A, country B, foreign marketing subsidiary sales force will be going for the distributors, dealers and agents, and also in that is in customers in the B business, government agency, retail, final customers. But in case of direct, you have direct options and indirect. When you are indirect, you are going, that is you talk about the freight forwards, banks, carriers, insurance companies, that is a production location in country A, international channel members may be trading companies, export desk jobbers, export marketing companies, export commission house, that is all external, that is members, distributors, dealers, agents, all comes under exactly. So exactly we have two options. One is direct exporting to the foreign markets, where agents will be working for you. There is a direct involvement. There has been less number of like intermediaries, but when you are going for the import exporting, you have more number of intermediaries. Then we talk about the indirect distributions. We talk about the indirect distribution can be classified based on the whether the international market makes the useful of domestic intermediaries. An international market therefore can make use of the following types of internal distribution in the foreign markets: domestic overseas intermediaries, commission buying agents, country controlled buying agent, export management companies, export merchant agents, piggy banking. These all are the domestic overseas intermediaries. When you talk about the foreign intermediaries, we have foreign sales representative, foreign agents, foreign stocking, non-stocking agents, state controlled trading companies. So these all are the both ways you can go for the international market. When you talk about the direct one, direct distribution, exactly marketers in organizing direct distribution includes sending missionary skies representative. But if you have if you have a long-term objective to to stay in the country where you would like to operate for a longer period, then exactly you have to go for the and you have to spend more on local sales, branch offices and regions, establishing subsidiary abroad, entering into joint ventures and franchise agreements. Already we have talked about that. This is the way they are talking about. Another example I'm setting here, because Kia Motors, they wanted to enter the Indian market. They do not have the distribution channels. So when being a new player, when you wanted to enter to the foreign markets, you do not have market knowledge. Also, you do not have the distribution patterns. So they have a collaboration with Hyundai. Hyundai and that is Kia, they have collaborated all the beginning in the early space. All Kia models were sold in the Hyundai's distribution. Even also GM and Tata Motors. Tata Motors and GM had a collaborations where the Tata Motors used to sell the cars of GM. Why? Because GM, the General Motor does not have market knowledge, does not have distributions. To minimize risks, they have taken the partner. They have become a they have made a partner in the local market who are already existing one who have knowledge. They will be selling your cars. That is you talk about. If you have a long-term objective or long-term plan to continue in that country for a longer period, then exactly you have to go through. You have to think about how can we go for the franchisee mode or venture agreements or entering into subsidiary. That is exactly the way you can able to enter into the foreign market. That is the direct distributions. So when you talk about the different kinds of distributions, we talk about commission buying agents. That is working for a company, foreign company on salary commission basis. That is known as commission buying agents. We talk about country controlled buying agents, similar above but controlled by the foreign government. EMC, independent firms contracted by the manufacturer to develop, export, sales, handle, shipping or delivery arrangement of payments. Export merchants, exporters, piggy banking is nothing but the selling domestic company with company's product line already well placed in the international market. So that is the way of we talk about the domestic overseas intermediaries. When we talk about foreign intermediaries, we have foreign sales representative, the foreign manufacturers, bundles, related products lines on the commission basis, foreign sales agents, then end users, similar end users, state buying corporations. That is, you have the different options as far as the international distribution is concerned. They are talking about the intermediaries. When you talk about the international distribution policy, when you talk about the policy, you talk about the when you talk about the policy, whether you have a long term or short term objectives. So that is, if you have a long term objective, so you can have a you have to think about, can I control, can I give the best margins, length of the channel, tops of the sales, channel owners, who will be managing the channels. So mostly your question on control, size of the margin, length of channel, term of the sales, channel ownership is designing the international distribution policy. The resources commitment plans for distribution function management with profit objectives are 4 points, specific market goals expressed in terms of volume, market share, return on investment, relationship between long-term and short-term goals. That all decides your international distribution policy. If you have a long-term commitment or you have a short-term commitment, then exactly you have to look for a partner. If you look the partner with whom you'll be working for the next 5 years or 10 years, after that you will be detached from the partner, because already you got the knowledge about the local markets. You have already established your own distribution channels. Most of the foreign companies, they used to go for this kind of distribution channels where the risks of man can be managed in a better way. That we talk about the distribution policy. Then we talk about, even if you have already, we talk about as far as your product is concerned, even if you have a standardized approach, or you have a standardized approach, whatever, or you can go for the extensions, but still is one of the best way to deal with the international market is adapting to distribution partners. That is, the market requires a new distribution partner altogether. Because why? Because the the behavior of the people, the purchasing pattern of the people, the tradition, convention in the wholesaling trade distribution patterns, shopping habits of customers, including their reliance and channel members, all deciding you have to adopt a new model altogether. So that is why we talk about the adoption to different model. That is, wherever you go, you see what kind of, you do not have any standardized formats, you do not go for any formats, but you think about a distribution pattern which is a sustainable one, and you will bring a new distribution channel altogether. Suppose being a car company, you cannot have only showroom or only distribution pattern who will usually selling cars. You also require the services point. When you are going as an international company, when you are launching or entering the other market, as a mobile phone is concerned, you have to have service points. So that exactly you have to change your approach as far as distribution is concerned. That is why adopting to distribution patterns, the withstanding with an international distribution policy of the company, the factor of flexibility. You have to bring flexibility as far as distribution channel. That is why now we are talking about omni channels. Why omni channels? Because of the growth in e-commerce, that has made possible for the other companies, international companies, to access the local markets, to to able to sell the products in the local markets. Because of what? Because you not only depending on one physical distributions, you are also wanted to have e-commerce. So you, when you have when somebody will order online and getting product offline, or order offline and getting the product online. So you can have an integration of both the channels, both that is of online and offline. So that is what we talk about. The companies now, they are adopting a new format of distribution which is known as omni-channel. That we talk about during the clear understanding of the target market characteristics, covering suspects such as tradition, conventions in the wholesaling, retail distribution patterns, shopping habits of the customers. That is, if you are targeting a rural market, then exactly what will be the point of distribution? Your points of distribution will be the best place, your point of distribution in the Mela or Hat. So if your product has to be visible there, if the product is not visible there because you are not getting the right attentions. So that is why the factors like traditions, conventions in the wholesaling and distribution patterns, shopping habits of the customer, including their reliance and channel members for product information servicing, commercial terms, all decide your what kind of distribution channel you will be adopting as far as the distribution policy is concerned. This is, you talk about the adaptability. So when you talk about the distribution policy, you talk about the agents in the foreign markets. Agents known by different names and performing various functions in the different foreign markets have a historically established place in the international distribution. While agents, they are not involved. They are only involved in selling a product. Not exactly, they do not involve in other aspect. The agents do not take time to the goods. Their importance stems from local language proficiency, access to important policy and decision makers, overcome business culture defects, short circuiting the buying selling process, performing cumbersome formalities and complying with the routines and procedures of foreign markets. They are only meant for, that is how the product will be delivered and how they'll be getting their own commissions, but they are not will be involved in distribution because in other aspects, because distribution channel are not only meant to say, supply the product or services to the end users, but also they are responsible to promote the products. If the distribution is placing your product on the short front shelf or giving a specific space for you distribute the point, you are able to getting you are getting also the company, the retailer or the distributor is also promoting your brand. That is why when you are designing the distribution patterns, you have to carefully design what kind of distribution pattern we are going for. The agents in the foreign market is exactly they are only meant to sell the product in the international market, but they don't have any other role to understand the market dynamics, to understand the cultural difference. They do not have other things. Only they will be working like an agent. So when you are selecting the distribution channels, what are the things you have to look for? That is why they see a local player who has a existing player who has already years of experience as far as business is concerned. That is why GM, you talk about Kia or any Suzuki, they have taken the help of Maruti or local company, established company to enter into the Indian market. Reason being because distribution channels when you are going for that is any issue or any problems arises with the distribution point with the company, the local partner could able to manage that. Then exactly, then if you are going for that, then you have to look for what are the capital requirements, level of distribution cost, desired extent of control over distribution channels, depth of market knowledge, product market distribution pattern characteristics, competitive practices. So that is why they look for somebody who is already exist, who has known about the market, who has already distribution points. So that is exactly they go for this kind of distribution channels inside the ABC rather than to going for a new one. So that is we talk about the selecting when you are selecting a distribution channels or channel members. The points like capital requirements, level of distribution cost, desired extent of control over distribution channels, depth of market knowledge, coverage, all the points you have to see. Then you go for the distribution channels. Next we talk about that is exactly we talk about the points. What are the selecting distribution channels and channel members? The see the points. What are the points? Like financial soundness. Whether the company is good enough as far as finance is concerned. Then exactly because why any issues will see any problem arises in near future, it can be managed by the local company. Marketing management expertise and sophistication. So does he know? Because already I have talked to you regarding that is whatever objective you have, whatever decisions you are taking, it has to align with the local partner. If local partner does not understand your your mentality, what is your objective, why you are going for the product, then exactly it will also create problem for your company. Satisfaction trade and customer relationship and contact. The database you do have that you talk about the Prudential and ICI. ICI and Prudential. Prudential is a international company. ICICI is an Indian company. When Prudential entered the Indian market, they identified ICICI being a financial institution. They do have database. People have already trust. They are a well-known market in the market. So if you are aligning or if you have any collaboration or partnership with ICICI, what happens? ICICI definitely will leverage our brand image. Definitely will boost your brand image because they are already established. Capability to provide adequate sales coverage, whatever they have target they will be taking, they can able to achieve the targets. When that is the company is a capital rich company or company is a very exactly one of the financially sound company, then exactly the company can able to take some risks on that. Overall positive reputation image of the company, product compatibility, synergy we talk about already. The objective has to be both the objective the company, international company and the local company has to go together. Pertinent technical know-how of at staff level, adequate technical abilities of supports, service support, adequate infrastructure in staff and facilities, open performance and with client record companies, positive attitude towards the company's products, matured outlook. That is exactly on that basis we are talking about. Last not the list is exactly whether that company is having a good political relationship. If the political relationship is good, then exactly the country risks, political risks can be minimized. Already I have talked about that point, that is, even if the company you wanted to be a local partner, but you have to see whether your partner is sufficient enough to manage your quality. That is the country risk is concerned. If they are basically excellent government relation, they have a good liaising as far as government is concerned. So if they have a good liaising, what will happen? They will be managing the risks as far as the local market is concerned. So these are the points we should talk about before you selecting the. We have a ranking, like we have out of 5, we are giving marks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is exactly, if you see, that is one company is getting 80 more marks as far as distribution pattern is concerned. One distributor is getting 111 points, another is getting now 94 points, another is 85 points. So definitely we will be going for the distributor one, because he is already existing and already have a market knowledge, already has good relationship with the government. That is why we will be going for the first one, because of the his fulfilling all the criteria which is established by the company. Will you talk about the selecting distribution channels and channel members? Why should I will be associated with your company unless there is a win-win situations? Any company also wanted to be part of the system, part of the company, part of the distribution points. If the company is getting sufficient benefits, so that is, we talk about the economic and non-economic incentives be used. If that is there, you are getting most benefits. That is, then exactly it will motivate somebody to be a part of it. That is why at beginning I talked about, that is, now companies have changed their approach as far as distribution is concerned. They are going for a collaborative approach where the channel members and the company working together, and this is becoming a win-win situation for both the company. So when it is a win-win situations, what happens? The channel member realized that is, if I associated with the current company or any company, the economic and non-economic incentives will be better. So definitely everybody wanted to be part of the system or part of the company. It should be noted that because channel members are independent business entities, their primary consideration for relationship is economic. That is exactly, they wanted to be part of the your organized part of the distribution channel. If they are getting more profit, then they will be part of the system. So if the channel member does not get the adequate economic returns, it is unlikely that he will put the best efforts into the business. So that exactly we talk about what motivates the profit or the economic activity, the involvement, and what exactly motivates the channel members to be a part of the distribution points. Then we talk about, that is one of the Robert Douglas Stewart suggested following ways for strengthening the channel members' loyalty. So exactly, build your distribution with the company. Bring him into the picture, discuss plans as they affect his area with him, seek his advice. Matlab, that is exactly, that is one-to-one interactions, one-to-one involvement will be there. If you wanted to have a better distribution channel, or the distribution channel will remain loyal to your company, you have to have a one-one discussions, and also you have to think from distributor's point of view, not from your point of view. If you are thinking from distributor point of view, you are guiding him every time, then exactly he would definitely would wanted to be a part of your system. Give your distribution an effective profit margins. Try to keep in mind that you want to be the business with him for several years. You are not with him for 1 year or 2 years. You are here with the motive for next 25 years, 30 years. When you have a motive of 25 years, 30 years, that means you have a long-term objective. When you have a long-term objective, keep in mind that is exactly, you have to give sufficient profit margins to your distributor. Once you are giving profit margins to distributors, definitely that will motivate, or the meantime he will definitely remain loyal to the company and will do business for the long term. Be sure that he has credit terms which make him competitive more so in amount or length of payments. So whatever the local companies follow, if you are flowing beyond that. You are giving good margins as compared to local companies, and also you are encouraging him to be part of the system. And also, as far as credit is, you are giving more credit terms to your distributor. Automatically, the distributor wanted to be associated with your company. Maintain regular correspondence. Make sure that he can clearly understand what you have to say. The distributor, who is the ground, like soldier for you, he has to understand what is your objective, what is your plans. So exactly accordingly he will work. That is why you have to have a regular correspondence and make sure that he can clearly understand what you want to say. Then control over the also, even if you are going for the selecting the distribution channels, but control is required. Why control is required? Because when you are control, you have a control over the distribution channels. So exactly what happens, you can implement whatever things best for your company. If the distribution is channel, you do not have a control over the distribution channels, then exactly what happens, you cannot implement what you wish. Control of distribution channel members in international distribution through difficulty, yet it is important aspect. Accomplishment, sales targets, market coverage, development goals, payment schedules, profit distribution, made are some of the factors on which the performance of channel member is appraised and controlled. So exactly, even if you are giving a lot of responsibility, meantime also you have to ensure that you are giving the best return. Then exactly if it is matches, then you will the cost the the channel member definitely will continue. That is why at beginning I said you there is a win-win situation has to be there, and not only he is not a channel member, he is a collaborators. If the collaborator comes, he is becoming a collaborator. If he is not a channel members, what will happen? There will be definitely feel factor. The feel factor will be he will definitely think this is my company. Why should not I put my efforts for the betterment of the company? That is why we talk about the channel members has to be very effective one, efficient one to deal with the business. When you talk about the distribution management, international physical distribution management, we talk about international modelism, containerizations, where the byproducts of this era were poised to metaprise the transporting of several general moving into seamlessly. So exactly already I have talked about that. The companies now realized if you are going for only one channel or you are depending on your traditional one, you cannot ensure the services will be seamless. So you have to look for a options where you can have a seamless services, a seamless offering to the customers. The 40 years ago, the physical process of exporting, importing goods was there, but that is we are talking about. That is exactly you have to go for the other ways where you have to talk about the intermodalism or containerizations. That exactly you can go for that, and it will give you the benefits. When you talk about the international distribution management, also we talk about the functions and the cost associated with the packing, order tracking, processing, inventory. You have to also take into consideration the other aspects. Not only product will be delivered. Beside that, what are the other things? What is the money involved as far as packing is concerned, order tracking is concerned, processing is concerned. That exactly you have to think about that. Then exactly will happen. This is definitely I told you that is exactly when you have a feel factor for your partner, for your collaborator, for your distribution channels. Definitely he will have a high positive opinion about your company, and he wanted to be associated not only short term but in the long run. Given geographical distance, the associate business risks a variety of transport modes available. The management of this function was a difficult challenge. So far as the objective of ensuring ready and regular supply of goods in the world market, almost at the most optimal cost is concerned. That is why what happens now. Companies they wanted to have their local production unit in the like in a country where they wanted to operate. If the government has a policy who is allowing foreign companies to have their establishment, have their distribution channels, that is the best way to go manage. Because if you are going for physical direct way or indirect way, you are also facing lot of issues. But if you are going for you're going there and putting starting your distribution plan, that will help you. That is why you have to understand the geographical, that is the international distribution channels. Also, we talk about the physical distribution management known as the dark continent. Yes, of the marketing offer tremendous potential for cost cutting, improving profitability. It requires the use of STEMs, systems approach, the management of the transportation, warehousing, inventory function is an integral manner. So when if you wanted to go for the physical distributions, you have to see how where cost can be minimized. Instead of going for 10 individuals, you go for one or two individuals who are energetic, who are who have leadership qualities, who are self-motivated. If you are going for them, then exactly because the the cost of stocking the product or inventory cost of what is that reaching to that points, that is exactly mostly is one of the difficult part as far as the distribution management is concerned. So international there is in fact freight forwards play important role in facilitating the tedious distribution activities procedures. The typical functions performed by them are figure cost, and that is determine the most cost effective methods of shipment to port, considering the port charges, wharfage, and handling tolls, so on at the port of exit. Consider ocean freight rates, all at the cost you have to think about. That is exactly how the cost can be minimized as far as the my business is concerned. Next, the steamship booking. If payment is made by the letter of credit, check the date of shipments must be on board. Expiration dates for the negotiation document. Examine the transit time from the plant to the port as well as allowability to ensure that the shipment arrives on the time without any delay. So that is why you talk about the that makes sure that is your the the shipment has been there or you are getting the product on time. If that is not possible, if you are not able to keep that commitment, what happens, that is exactly the distributor will not continue business with you. He will be definitely leaving you. Do not want to continue business with you. Instruct the ship dipping department on when a shipment from the plant should be made. Notify the steamship company when shipment is made, whether by rail, truck, air, or PGS Express, giving the routine and so what happens, like now it is becoming more easier and so more flexible because of the technology. Technology could able to track where shipment has arrived, all movement of the shipment that can be traced. But still, that is exactly you have to have you if you are going for the steamship company when the shipment is made, whether by jail or truck, that exactly you have to communicate him so that that is both that is exactly both the partners has to have a collaboration or kind of joint ventures. Secure peer permit, make arrangements for the delivery to peer. That is exactly you have to ensure all these things when you are talking about the international physical distribution management. Prepare an export declaration showing shipper, consignee, value, commodity classification number. Prepare the bill of lading, checking compliance with all conditions and terms of sale. Deliver the export declaration to the steamship company after it has approved by the customer's house. Present bill of lading to the steamship company for execution. Secure consular forms, prepare consular documents, submit to the consulate for visa. So exactly you are going for international work. These are the things you have to take into consideration, take into account when you are talking about the international distribution management. Secure a sign bill of lading. The shipment company rather than the shipment has arrived, paying ocean freight charges, assemble online documents, pay payment by ship side draft or prepare the draft, attach the necessary document. Everything you have to do, then exactly you could able to manage the physical distribution management as far as the international business, international marketing is concerned. The next we talk about the containerizations. What is containerization? The term very familiar to the present day shipping industry was completely unknown concept a few decades ago. Containerization. What is containerization? Containerization is nothing but exactly it is a like the we talk about that the how your product can be better content. The growth of in India has been slow, steady. The formation of container corporations in India has autonomous bodies. Where you talk about exactly the container has to see that is exactly what are the products it has to include. The Malcolm McLean, the owner of the huge trucking company in USA, which first conceived the idea of containerizations by transport containers through idea links in 1956, initiated a revolutionary history of the shipping industry. Over the years, the industry has created a separate identity within the shipping world through continuous development and exactly and again that is exactly you are going for the containerization. Containerization exactly is exactly the product has to contain all the products has to contain in one area where you will be yes, that is delivering that product content to the to the target market. That is Indian has it is a slow and steady, but that is the formation of Container Corporation of India concur as an autonomous body under the Ministry of Railways in 1980 boosted efforts to increase the containerized traffic in the country. So exactly it will be containerize all the high products like truck, your exactly you talk about the truck or your heavy commercial vehicles, light commercial vehicle, all will be containerized through these methods. That is, you talk about the containerization, the various advantages. You talk about what are the advantages we offered by the containerizations. Containers can be loaded, sealed at the consignor's premises at nearby container depot, minimize the risk of theft. Exactly, we have talked about it will be uh, sealed, it will be loaded at the consignor's premises and nearby the container depot, maximum the risk of theft. So that is, you can ensure the product will reach the destination on time. Since the goods are not directly handled during voyage, the risk of damage is minimized. Yes, that is why we talk about the containerization is the best way to like to minimize the damage. Cargo can be loaded in a matter of hours rather than days. The reduction in handling time at ports resulted in increase the berth capacity. Faster turnaround enables ships to make a higher number of annual voyages and reduces the number of necessary ships. So exactly, you are getting a lot of benefits as far as your that is the containerization is concerned. That is why the government has taken initiated the containerizations, and exactly it will be managing all your risk originating things in a better way. That is why we are going for the containers. Containers can be loaded, sealed at the consignor's premises at nearby container depot, minimizing the risk of theft. Since goods are not directly handled, the risk damage is minimized. Cargo can be loaded in a matter of hours rather than days. The reduction in handling time of the port. So basically, what exactly we are looking for? We are looking for that is when we are going for the international business, we are looking for that the time and the money, the cost involved in the process of delivering can be reduced. If that can be reduced, it will lead to efficiency of your transportation, efficiency of the distribution channels. So that is why we have to think about what are the best alternatives as far as the sending the product to the international market. So that is why we have to think about how time and cost can be minimized. For that reason, we are looking for option of containerizations. So that we talk about the that is basically the things we talk about. That is one is your you have to think about that is when you talk about the international channels, is it a risk one? You have to go for different kinds of rigs, the rigs of like direct distributions, indirect distributions. Also you have a rigs of how can I enter directly. If I enter directly, there is a risk of contradicts. Rigs can be minimized if you have the right approach. What could be the approach? The approach must be, you have to take the help of a local partner, local company who will be exactly helping you to manage the show. And also you have to go for the, as far as your policy is concerned, you have to see whether my partner is able to share the risks then or have a better negotiation with the government then exactly what happens, it will be minimizing the risks involved as far as the international business is concerned. So for that reason, we have to have a very clear understanding of distribution pattern, because the coverage you have, still let us talk about that. Like companies like LIC, they do have a wide distribution network. State Bank of India, they do have a nice right distribution, a wide distribution network. Foreign companies, foreign insurance companies, foreign banks, they realized the kind of network the insurance LIC or the SBI has created, that will take years to get that commitment. So that is why if you wanted to compete with LIC or SBI, you have to have a formidable network, formidable access. You have to have a reach to all sections of the society. So also basically it is also depends, if you wanted to only remain present in the upper sections, what kind of distribution channels you are going for. If you wanted to have a volume sales, you wanted to have presence everywhere, then you what kind of distribution you have to go for. That all the points is there the talking about, it comes under the distributions. So thing is that that we talk about the first one. We talk about distribution plays important roles because of what? Because if your product is not good, your price is good, your place is okay, but it requires product has to be available at the right time, at the right place. If the product is not available at the right time, at the right place, your marketing fails there. So that is why you have to ensure your product has to reach the place on time. When you talk about the distance, physical distance, beyond physical distance, other factor that is also influencing the distribution patterns. So that is why we will go for the similar kind of distribution, or altogether you go for a different distribution channel. That is the discussion points. When you talk about, already you talk about the distribution examples, talk about the distribution channels. The example of international distributions, you can have direct distributions, indirect distributions. When you are going for the direct distribution, what happens that if you have a long-term objective, you wanted to establish your own business there, you wanted to sustain for the long run, then exactly you have to, beside distribution, you have to spend money on other aspects. So that is one aspect. Another one is indirect distributions, indirect way of, that is an international market that we can make the following, that is they can go for the domestic overseas intermediaries, they can go for the commission buying agents, country controlled buying agent, export management companies, export merchant, that exactly the domestic overseas intermediary. Foreign intermediaries, the foreign sales representatives, foreign sales agents, foreign stocking, non-stocking agent, state controlled trading companies. So that exactly you have to understand when you are going for the indirect way of entering into the other countries. But when you talk about the direct distributions, the options is exactly available to international market is organic direct distribution include sending, and if you have to understand that is what is the, you have to setting up local brands, local like subsidiaries or joint venture franchising agreement. Already I have cited you. That is how companies like Maruti, company like Suzuki, and companies like GM, companies like IKEA, they have entered and they have a collaboration with the local companies when they wanted to business in the Indian market. So because they are getting the benefit of market knowledge, they are getting the benefit of what like risks that can be minimized as far as direct distribution is concerned. Already we have talked about that, the different distribution channel, the commission buying agent, who is a commission buying agent, who is a piggybacking, like the working of a foreign company as far as domestic is concerned, working for a foreign company on salary commission basis in sorts of lowest price and best deliveries, country controlled buying agents. Already we have talked about, similar above by the controlled by the foreign government. EMC already we talk about export merchants, that is you talk about that, and exporters. But as far as foreign intermediary is concerned, foreign one who handles related product line on commission basis known as the foreign sales representatives, foreign sales agents, end user state buying companies. That is when you talk about the policy has to be stringent policy so that you can have a control over the distributions. The policy exactly has to be not only when giving benefit the company only. Also, the policy has to take into consideration the requirements of the channel involved. If the channel is getting benefits, channel is able to maximize its return on investment and have a win-win policy for both the channel members and the company, then definitely it will encourage the channel members to be part of the distribution pattern. So that is why we talk about the relationship between long-term and short-term goals, the extent of the company's involvement in digital systems, as well as the extent of its ownership of middleman. So if you wanted to have a better relationship, then exactly you have to identify a partner who is aligned with your objective, and you also they wanted to work with you for a long-term basis. Adapting to distributions, already we talk about that. Adapting to distribution, even if there are certain rules, certain like the system is there to how to enter to the foreign market, but even if you enter to the foreign market, if you do not able to adopt with their changes, with their requirement, what kind of channel they require, then exactly your distribution channel may not work. So that is why we talk about the clear understanding of the target market characteristics, covering aspects such as traditions, conventions in wholesaling, retail distribution pattern. Because India, we talk about the company like realized, like Pepsi, Coca-Cola has realized that the if you wanted to get success in the Indian market, we have to reach each corner of India. You have to take the help of all small kirana stores to remain present in all across India. That is why they have a advantage of the kind of network they do have. They have going for the intensive distribution channels. So that is why you have to think about the including the reliance on channel members for product information, serving commercial terms, legal requirements. That all points has to be taken into consideration when you are going for the adaptation. As far as the adaptation to distribution patterns, that you have to think about what is the best way that it can be possible. Now we talk about the agents in the foreign markets. The agents in the foreign market, known by the different names, perform various functions in different foreign. Their importance stems from local language only. They have a, because they're working like agent, they will get commissions, but they do not share your title. What is the advantage they do have? They have advantage of local language, proficiency, access to important policy, decision maker very close to the government officials, government people, overcoming business culture differences, circuiting the buying selling process, and performing the cumbersome formalities and complying with routine and procedure of the foreign. That is exactly if you are going for agent, benefit exactly they only able to sell on the basis of the commission they are getting, but they don't have the access to certain things which is required if you are like who wanted to have a long term sustain in the market. Then we talk about the what are the requirements are there as far as the selection is concerned. When you talk about the selection is concerned, you have to see whether the partner is a well established one, is capable enough to manage the risks, has a what has a good liaising with the local government, be a part of the local government policy or government policy decisions. So if that satisfies the criteria, then exactly you are going with the distributor. If you see the distributor is not a not is a new one, it does not have the market knowledge, it does not have the capital to invest, then exactly if you are aligning with him, then exactly what happens, your objective, your business cannot grow in the long run. That is why you have to think about the distribution channel when you are going for. You have to think about the capital required, the level of distribution cost, major extent of control over distribution channels, depth of market knowledge, product market distribution patterns, competitive practices, legal requirement, all has to, if they satisfies all these points, then exactly you think about that exactly we are going for the, we are selecting the distributions. Otherwise, no. When you are talking about the last point we talk about here is exactly the excellent government relations. We are ranking on the distributions on the basis of certain points, and then we are selecting distribution. Whoever scores highest mark, he will be getting the best you will be selecting. In the here example, the company we got 111 points as far as the score is concerned. One distributor got, another distributor got 94 points, another distributor got 85 points. The distributor who is getting more points, then exactly he is been getting the C selected for the distribution, because already he has a knowledge, he has shown finance soundness, marketing capabilities, reputation is good, compatibility, technical know-how at staff level, adequate infrastructure in staff and facilities. So all points when you talk about that satisfied by the foreign companies, then better you go for that is the company, the distribution partner which is already has a knowledge about the market, local market already is existing one, and also has a government better relationship with the government. So that exactly you go for that. So what motivates the channel members if is I'm not getting the right kind of returns, if that is exactly I'm only concerned for selling the product, but profit won't be shared. So that is why the motivation could be non-economic incentive and incentives. If I'm getting both the things, mostly economic returns. If I'm getting economic returns on the if I involve, then exactly I show interest to be a part of the channel members. So what motivates? With the monetary benefits or associations or incentives you are getting. So all points we talk about, that is the motivations of the channel member to be a part of the distribution channel. That is, you talk about the Robert Douglas Stewart suggested a following ways to channels. There is a distributor, bring him to the pictures, give the distributor effective profit margins, be sure he has the credit terms which make him competitive, maintain regular correspondence. If you are personally, you are associating, you are communicating with your distribution channels, then exactly you are building a long-term relationship with the distribution channel. Definitely, he will show his interest to be part of the distributions. Then we talk about the control. Exactly, we talk about the control. That is, even if you have the distribution channels, but have to have a control over the distribution, because the distribution channel is not only selling your product, also promoting your, also is a part of your image. If the image of the distribution is very bad, or getting worst, then exactly it also deteriorates the image of the company which is involved. That is why you have to have a control over the distribution channels. If you do not have the control over the distribution channel, what happens? The distribution may is doing something unethical for which you will be blamed, your image will be deteriorated. That is why you have to think about how can I bring a control over the channel members. Then we talk about the international physical distribution management. We talk about how can we go for the omni-channel distributions, where we are taking the help of seamless, or we are going for the what now we are going for the seamless, or we are going for the half presence both in offline and online, where things will be becoming easily can be shared, or easily can be shared to your target audience. That is why we are going for the international physical distribution management. We are talking about that is the containerizations. When you talk about the containerizations, that is, you talk about the management of physical distribution goods include the functions as well as cost involved. So that is why we talk about the containerizations. Containerizations is the first part of the distribution channel, which is a dark continent of the distribution, because it takes a lot of time, lot of cost. So that is why it is becoming difficult to reach on time. That is, we talk about the containerization. So as you talk about the containerizations, containerization is exactly is a new term, where companies the content will carry the document, all the products, and will reach on destination, and mostly the waste of products you are dealing with, the kind of distribution you are going for, all has to align. That is, if you are going for a direct distribution, what happens? What if you are going for indirect distribution, what happens? Then you have to see all the pros and cons in each aspect of distribution patterns. If that exactly satisfies your criteria, and so you have taken a criteria, where the criteria is exactly what the criteria is to government realizing capital investment, all has to, you are seeing if the say satisfy the all criteria, then exactly you go for the distribution channels. With this, we are completing here the marketing mix for international business, which you talk about product, price, international integrated communications, distribution patterns, and I think I have clarified all the elements of marketing mix in detail. Thank you for today.